you guys? Welcome back to Lily Reads. In today's video, we are going to be doing a January 2024 wrap-up. I cannot even attempt to pick up all of the books that I read in January. Actually, there's a book over there that I read in January that I need to go get. Think of all of my life. This is the most books I have read in 1 month. I have read 21 books in January of 2024. And there's a reason for that. I gave up social media in January. So all the scrolling I usually did throughout the day was no longer. And so whenever I had idle time, I would just go pick up a book. And so I was just able to get through so many books and I enjoyed it. I read some good books this month, but I do not want to keep you long because we do have to get through 21 books. So the first book I'm going to discuss is Beloved by Toni Morrison. This is the last book that I read in January. In this book, we are following a main character named Setha. Setha is a former slave and now she currently lives with her mother-in-law and her daughter. Setha has had a really traumatic life being a slave, and then all of her children have either died or left her. She had 2 boys, they left her. Her oldest daughter died, and lots of things happened to her during her pregnancies, and the only child she has left is a child by the name of Denver. Denver lives with her as well as her mother-in-law. But one day, a slave who was on the same plantation as her, he comes to visit her house. His name is Paulie D, and her and Paulie D get to talking. She starts telling Paulie D about what she has been up to, and they get to talking about how the house that she currently lives in is haunted, and she thinks that that's the reason why her sons left her and everyone keeps leaving her, because her home is haunted. Where one day Paulie D and Denver, which is Setha's daughter, they go to this carnival, this festival. It's a really beautiful scene. It's beautifully written about them going to this really disgusting carnival, and they only go there to see white people make a mockery of themselves. There's some really interesting thoughts to be said about that whole scene, just beautifully written. But anyway, when they come back home, they see a little black girl sitting on their steps, and she says her name is Beloved. Setha takes Beloved in, and Beloved basically becomes Setha's adopted daughter. But Paulie D notices once Setha moves in, the house seems even more haunted. The house seems even more haunted, and that starts this question: who is Beloved? Why is Beloved here? And what's going on around here? Spooky things get to happening. This book is a horror story, and I never knew that it was. This book is a haunting story, a ghost story. It's so good. It is so damn good. Now, the thing about Toni Morrison is smarter than all of us. Therefore, this book I do think is kind of hard to read. You're really going to challenge your literacy level when you read this book to understand certain things that's going on. But I think if you go in here with me telling you this is a haunting story, this is a ghost story, this is a haunted house story, you can kind of get into it more. You understand more what's going on. I didn't really have that preface going in, so I was just taking it on face value. There are so many lines in this book that I had to write down because they're so good. At the root of this story is a story about trauma and the lasting effects of slavery on Black people, and this choice between love and survival, and how oftentimes Black people have been told they have to make that choice. And it also, Toni Morrison was so good in this way in how she was able to empathize with Black women, and she was explaining the plight of a Black mother and what Black mothers go through and the decisions they have to make in order to help their children. And everyone else can judge those decisions, but all you have is the best choice you can make in that moment. But what I really enjoyed about this book is this idea of blocking things out, the things we choose not to remember. So much of the black existence is people saying we should block things that happen to black people out, and how that's it is a coping mechanism for all the horrible things that have happened to black people. This book just shows so well this conversation that black people constantly have to protect their family, but also to be in love, and also that love coming at a cost. Setha constantly talks about how she can't love anyone because everything she loves gets taken away from her. And black people today still go through this. Oh, this book was so good. 5 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed it. The next book that I want to discuss with you guys is Permanent Record by, their name is not on the cover. By the way, I took off the dust jacket, by Mary H.K. Cho. So in this book, we are following a boy who lives in the Bronx. He has failed out of NYU. He doesn't have any money. His mother is really strict and she wants him to go back to school, but he doesn't know what he's going to do. One day he is working at the bodega, which he works at, and this famous girl comes in, they hit it off, and he all of a sudden starts a relationship with this famous girl, and yeah, that takes him to all different types of places. This book could have been really good. Our main character in this story has such a good narrative voice. He's funny, he's witty, he has interesting things to say, and that's what kept me reading. But the problem is, this book isn't about anything interesting. Like, you just go from scene to scene, but there's nothing to really sink your teeth into. Therefore, I did not enjoy this book. I gave this book 2 out of 5 stars. Will I unhaul it? I took off the dust jacket, and I just think this is so pretty, but I own so many books, and it's just a question of, do I need to keep books just because they're pretty and I read them? I don't know. That's a conversation I have to have myself, but 2 out of 5 stars. If I'm generous, I would go 2.5. The next book that I want to discuss with you guys is All the Women in My Brain by Betty Gilpin. This is a memoir / a collection of essays. In this, Betty Gilpin is telling us about her life and all the moments in her life that have made her who she is, and how she has kind of come into her womanhood, and how she has learned to kind of stick up for herself and be her own person. This I was not expecting to enjoy as much as I did. I love memoirs because I love the personal stories, and what this book did was it gave you those personal stories, but it gave you something to take from that. Betty Gilpin is really smart. Some of the stuff she's saying in this book is quite visionary, and she's talking about this constant battle of wanting to appease people, but also wanting to be her own being, and she constantly struggled with this throughout her entire life. I enjoyed this. I think you should get your hands on this. I gave this book 4.75. Enjoyed it. That goes in the win pile for me. The next book I want to discuss is House of Hunger by Alexis Henderson. This is a fantasy novel, and in this novel, there are a bunch of houses of vampires, basically, and then there's poor people. Then there's people who are poor who don't have anything. So in this book, our main character, she's poor. She lives with her brother. Her brother treats her terribly. Her parents are gone. And she decides that she is going to be like a blood maid to one of these houses. So basically, you allow for these rich people to drink your blood in order for you to have room and board. And so she decides she's going to go be a blood maid for House of Hunger. When she gets there, she notices things are weird, but this is a life she's never had before. She has a bed, she has good food, but before you know it, things turn a little dark and things might not be as they appear. This book was fine. I just don't think this book had enough depth for me. Like, it was easy to read, and that's good, but like, I need more. I need more, and this book didn't give me more. So it's a 3 out of 5 star. To me, this is the most 3 out of 5 star book that has ever 3 out of 5 stars. Like, it's just fine. It's just perfectly fine. I don't have any issues with it, but like, it didn't blow me away. The next book that we have is The School for Good Mothers by Jasmine Chan. So in this book, we start off with this woman who is in crisis because she is about to lose custody of her daughter. There was an incident where she had to run into work and she left her daughter at home. And the daughter started crying. The neighbors called the police and they took the daughter from her, and now they're going to let the daughter live with the father. Now, the father cheated on our main character and then married the woman he cheated with. And so she already got a bad taste in her mouth about this man. And so she decides she needs to get her daughter back. But in order to get her daughter back, she has to prove she can be a good mother. And so the court kind of orders her to go to this school, and it's called the School for Good Mothers. And in this, the school teaches her how to be a good mother. This book is really, really interesting. So this book is more dystopian than what I'm trying to tell you. Like, the School for Good Mothers is not good. It is not good. They are treated terribly. Most of the people who are in this school are women of color. The black women get treated the worst in this school. And basically, they tell them all these things they need to do that are rooted in misogyny, that to be a good mother. This book is just too long. This book as a novella would be brilliant, but none of the characters were interesting enough except for the main character to really need a book this long. You kind of got the point. Once you were in the School for Good Mother, the same stuff kept happening over and over, and I got the point of that stuff the first time that it happened. So it just became too long. I still give it 3.75, but it could have been better than that. The message of this book is this idea how social services like child protective services and stuff like that can be agents of the police, and they specifically target certain people to take their kids and to tell them that they're bad mothers. It is not unintentional who gets to be chosen as who's decided to be a good mother and who's decided to be a bad mother. And that's what this book is getting at, but it takes a more dramatic tone in order to get that across, and how basically if you're a woman of color or if you're undesirable in any type of way, because you have white women who are at this place who are kind of like the white trash of white people, they also get thrown in there. So if you are seen as undesirable to society, how that trickles down into other things. That's why when we talk about pretty privilege, people are always talking about fickle, stupid shit, men buy me drinks. But what is at the root of things like pretty privilege is what it trickles down to. It trickles down into law enforcement. It trickles down into social services. It trickles down into other things. When you are seen as undesirable, people see you as that in all facets of life and things that are far more important than the stupid stuff y'all seem to be caring about. You get what I'm saying? And so this book has an incredible message. I just thought it went on for a little too long. The next book that we have is Thin Girls. In this book, we are following a woman who is dealing with anorexia, and she is now in a facility, and they call themselves Thin Girls. One day, this celebrity who kind of started her eating disorder, she used to look at this celebrity and have picked posters of her on the wall, and that kind of made her realize she should be skinny. She enters the facility because she wants to, get rid of her eating disorder. And so this kind of gets the ball rolling, this new person in the facility. But our main character has a twin sister. And one day the twin sister comes to visit, and she realizes that the twin sister might be going through something deeper than what she thought, and that she finally needs to kick her disorder, or at least lie about kicking her disorder to get out of this facility. This book is really, really brilliant. We get a lot of, I think, messaging about eating disorders and people with unhealthy, relationships with food. But I just think this book is more thoughtfully done. There's a quote that stays with me, and you would have to know the context of the book. But like I told you, they were twins. The sisters are twins. And the main character describes her and her twin sisters like the Twin Towers, and she goes, of course, how could one tower fall and not the other? And I just thought it was so brilliant. I don't know, that like quote has just like stayed with me, because I'm just like, I'm not even a twin, but like I have sisters. You guys know, love my sisters to death. And so like using that analogy to explain the relationship she has with her sisters and like how could one tower fall and not the other, like they're a pair. I just thought it was so good. 5 out of 5 stars. Thin Girls. The next book that I want to discuss with you guys, if I haven't said that enough, is Lisa Jules' None of This Is True. So in this book, we are following a woman who is out to dinner with her husband, and she sees some woman who is like kind of glitzy, seems like she's living the high life, and she notices that this woman is celebrating her birthday, and she said, that's fascinating because I'm celebrating my birthday too. We're birthday twins. So these two women run into each other in the bathroom. They get to talking, and so when our main character goes home, she Googles this lady and realizes that this lady has a podcast. And so she's like, I have a story and I want this lady to cover it on her podcast. So she gets in contact with this lady and it's like, I need to tell you something about me and you should make your podcast about it. And so the girl is kind of, she's hesitant at first, but then she goes with it. And she realizes that this woman is claiming that she is in an abusive relationship and things have happened to her and she needs to be saved. Bad things have happened to her because of her husband. And that gets into the entire story. This book has such an interesting setup. There's so many layers that are introduced in this book, and it could have gone down so many avenues, but absolutely doesn't. And I find the ending of this book to actually be abysmal. Like, I find it to be terrible, and I don't see how people can really love this book. I think this is one of those thrillers, if you think about it too long, it makes absolutely no sense. And then it does one of my least favorite things, which is kind of a spoiler, so skip if you don't want to be spoiled. Like, ambiguous endings. Like, I'm a woman of convictions, as you can tell by all my social medias. I'm a woman of convictions. And so, like, when a book is, like, ambiguous, I'm always kind of like, get the fuck out of here with this shit. So I'm giving this book 2 out of 5 stars. I also don't like the messaging of this book. This book has a really weird message of how it sees men and how it sees women. I don't like this book at all. I'm giving it 2 out of 5 stars. I cannot wait to unhaul this book. The next book that we have is Wellness. This is the first book that I read of the year, and it's a big one. So in this book, we are following a married couple whose marriage is basically on the rocks, and we're trying to figure out where they went wrong and how they can fix it. And how we're doing that is we're going back in time to seeing how these people were raised, the stuff that happened to them, and seeing what led to them being at odds in the current timeline. This book is a slow one. Like, if you watch my vlog on this, I wasn't feeling it at first. But I just think this book is completely worth the time. It is completely worth the time. Nathan Hill does something really clever in this. And, like, it's not going to, like, slap you over your face being so, like, shocking. But I just think it was just really thoughtfully done. It made me think about relationships and the relationships I have with, like, not only my partner, but with other people in my life. It was just deep and it was really well done. And I don't know, you guys know I love a marriage story. I love a marriage story. And once again, this did not disappoint. I am giving this book 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that we have is Love in the Big City. In this book, we are following a gay guy who lives in Korea. And he is an alcoholic, and he also has a terrible love life. He's going from dating app to dating app, trying to find some type of joy. But he does finally find someone who he can be in a relationship, and he's trying to figure out how can he make that work, how can they be together, and that's pretty much your story. This is a really interesting book because I 100% can see this book not being for everyone. This is one of those books where nothing actually happens. Like, the journey is the destination, but I just thought this was it was good narrative. I love a good narrative voice, and this character had a really good narrative voice, had some interesting things to say about love and being in relationships and about being young and, like, family. You want to know, this book reminded me of Crying in H Mart, but I just thought this book had, like, more interesting things to say about that same topic, like about not a significant other, about a mother dying and that affects. They kind of are doing the exact same thing in that way, but I just enjoyed this one a little bit more. So I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I thought it was perfectly fine. The next book that we have is Bad Fruit. In this book, we are following a girl who's going to be headed off to Oxford next year. But before she goes off to Oxford, she has to make sure her mom is going to be okay. Her mom seems to have undiagnosed either bipolar or schizophrenia. We do not really know, but her mom just goes off on these tangents and becomes really mean and really terrible. And so our main character, the young girl, she is the only one who can kind of control her mother and get her mother to kind of, calm down. But her sister and her brother have both left the house because they don't want to deal with the mother. Well, one day our main character starts to see maybe her brother and sister had the right idea and her mom might be more detrimental than she first thought to her existence. That's what this book is about. This book goes on a wild and crazy turn. I just love books that are just not like other books. Like this book, you're not going to read a book that is like this book. Like this book doesn't exist any other place. And so I appreciated it for that. I think the cover is really nice. 4 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed myself. The next book that we have is A Low Country Bride. In this book, we are dealing with this woman who is a dressmaker, but one day she gets a call that her father is in the hospital and she needs to go take care of him. So she asked her white employer, can she go down to South Carolina and take care of her father? She said, yeah, you can go, but like you're going to still have to work and you're not getting paid to work. And her white employer is throwing all types of microaggressions at her. She's a really rude, really nasty, and really racist. So she goes down to Charleston and she runs into this black bridal store and she meets this guy. And so she quickly starts working at this bridal shop and they're trying to save this bridal shop and this is a romance. No, this book is just not good. I give this book 1 out of 5 stars. Yeah, this is my only 1 star of January and it's this book. This book doesn't know what it wants to be. It's doing so much and so little at the exact same time. The romance is not there. Like that, just all of a sudden they like each other. There's no build up. There's no what do you like about me. It's just like they're together. They like each other because that's what a romance book should be. She has sickle cell, the main character in this, and I don't like the way it's treated in this book. It's treated as this like big secret she has to keep from people, and I just don't necessarily think that's a conversation. I just don't think it was done well. And the way it was treated in this book, it wasn't offensive or anything. I just don't think it went well with this, and then all the microaggression type of stuff was kind of cheesy. Like, it was kind of cheesy, and I just don't think anything worked in this book. So I'm going to quietly give this 1 out of 5 stars. It did not work. I wish that it did, but what can you do? The next book we have is All's Well by Mona Awad. In this book, we are following a woman who deals with chronic pain. And so she is a professor at this college. She teaches theater, and she wants to put on the All's Well play. She does not have the best intentions for putting on this play, but she wants to do it even though all of the kids do not want to do it. So one day, everyone stages a coup. They stage a coup so they can put on Macbeth instead of All's Well. And so she kind of gets pissed off at everybody. And one day she is sitting at the bar and these 3 guys come up to her and they kind of make a deal with her. Like, we can make all your dreams come true if you just, listen to us. And so one day she wakes up and she's not in pain anymore. The guy she has a crush on likes her back and her life seems amazing and good. But as she's getting better, the people around her are starting to get sick. And so there's some strange things going on. And that's our book. I enjoyed this way more than I enjoyed Bunny by Mona Awad. This was a good day well spent. I picked this up on audio. Enjoyed myself. I enjoyed what this had to say about chronic pain and this desire of control. Just wanting to be in control of your body. Speaking of, when I read Beloved, Toni Morrison has this quote. And it's something along the lines of, being free is one thing, but taking ownership of that freedom is another, something like that, that is so brilliant, and it plays perfectly into this book. This constant, like, it's one thing for someone to tell you you're free and you can do it. It's another thing to take ownership of that idea. Anyway, this book is also playing with that idea. Beloved changed my life. Beloved, Toni Morrison, The Woman You Are. Yeah, I'm gonna give this book 3.75 stars. Enjoyed it. The next book that we have is The Death of Viv by Kweke Emeze. In this book, we are in a Nigerian village, and we are following a cast of characters. We are following Viv, we are following Vivek's cousin, and we are following Vivek's mother. Vivek is gay, and everyone in this village knows that Vivek is gay. But of course, people can't just let that be, and everyone is uncomfortable with the fact that Vivek is gay. Well, one day, the mom sends Vivek to his aunt's house because she's just like, you need to go to church with your auntie. And when he goes to church with his aunt, the aunt allows for the preacher to beat Vivek, trying to get the demon out of him. And so the mom gets really, really upset, and she gets upset with the aunt, the family, the church, and everything. But Vivek is mad at his mama because he you sent me there. So Vivek runs off. Well, the next time the mom will see Vivek is wrapped up in cloth and is dead on the mother's porch. And we are trying to figure out what caused Vivek to die. And that's what this book is about. This book is perfectly good. This book is so well written. This book and Beloved are the best written books, I think, and Thin Girls that I read in January. I liked it. I always feel kind of distant from Kweke's writing. So, I don't know if me and Emeze just gel as, as partners, because I always feel slightly out of the book because I think it's just so flat. I'm more of a rugged, raw type. I like things to be raw. And I think someone like Toni Morrison is able to blend that. You get the beautiful writing with the rawness, and it's so good. Some people are just flowery, and that's a Kweke, and that's not my type of thing. So I give this book 3.75 out of 5 stars, but I do recommend it. I really, really do. The next book that we have, I'm still talking about books. This is crazy. Dead 11. So in this book, we are following a man. His sister has gone missing, and he's trying to figure out where his sister went. And that leads him to the town of Clifford, because that is the last place that his sister was seen. So we as a reader go back in time to when the sister came to Clifford, and we try to figure out, why is the sister missing and what's going on in this town. This is a really good book. This is a horror novel, but it's entry horror. It's not anything deep, dark, and weird, but it works for me. This book worked for me. I'm giving this book 3.5 out of 5 stars. It worked. I enjoyed my time reading Dead 11. The next book that we have is If I Had Your Face. We are back in Korea, and we are following 3 girls who are all dealing with kind of beauty politics. The root of this book is a bunch of women who kind of work at this escort type of bar club type situation, and everyone is trying to fix themselves and change themselves in order to be desirable to the men in Korea, the rich men in Korea, and that all leads them down different paths, and their paths link up. And that's If I Had Your Face. I explained that terribly, but that's what it's about. I'm going to give this book 5 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it so much. This is an ARC. I am holding in my hands an ARC. And I just went ahead and bought the finished copy. I don't need the ARC. I don't need the ARC. So I went ahead and bought the finished copy of this book. And so, yeah, If I Had Your Face. I really, really enjoyed it. The next book that we have is a book I did not enjoy, Bright Young Women. So in this book, we are following a woman who survived a serial killer and a woman who is looking for a serial killer. So our main character is in a sorority. And one day when she's actually the head of the sorority. And one day she is coming out of her room and she sees that this guy is running around their sorority house. So she goes and hides. But once this guy has left and she comes out, she realized this guy has killed her best friend in the sorority and has harmed 2 other girls in the sorority house. And that leads us down the path of figuring out who did it and why would he do this. But at the same time, there's this detective. Well, she's kind of a detective. She says, I think I know who did it because he killed my friend. And so they both work together to try to figure out who this guy is. So the premise of this is kind of like loosely on Ted Bundy and kind of telling the story of these women who were harmed by Ted Bundy through their eyes. This is just a not me book. It has nothing to say about the quality of this book. It's so funny. I say I'm not into true crime, but I love detective stories. So that's not true. I am not into serial killer type of thing. Like, that's just not my type of thriller novels, mystery novels I like to, consume. So it just wasn't for me. I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. Sorry. The next book that I want to discuss is Steelhouse Lake. Steelhouse Lake, I just did a whole spoiler vlog on this, so I won't stay long. But in we are following a woman who she found out her husband is a serial killer. So now her and her children have tried to start over a new life, but the same murders are happening again in their new location. And she's trying to figure out why that is and who's doing it. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed this book, and I will be continuing in the series. I have nothing more to say because I have an entire vlog dedicated to reading this. So just go pick that one up. The last book that I featured on my channel is Even If the Sky is Falling. This was the Lily Reads Book Club pick of January. This is a short story collection. It is an anthology, and we have 6 different authors a part of it: Lane Clark, Farrah Herring, Sharice Reed, Denise Williams, Sarah Smith, Taj McCoy. Farrah wrote the best book in this. It is called Keep Calm and Curry On. It's the best story. I'm sorry. It is so damn good. So much I went and bought Accidentally Engaged by this same author. I enjoyed it, but I did not enjoy this short story collection like overall. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. That's just me adding up all the ratings I gave each book and dividing it by the 6. The problem is there's many of these books that like stories that got like a 2, and so people like some of these stories that I got 5 or 4 are kind of bringing up the average. So like that's how that's working. But you know what? We read it. Lily Reads Book Club. That's that on that. So the last 3 books I have to talk to you guys about, I did not feature on my channel in any way. So we have Kristen Hanna, The 4 Winds. Yes, I read it, you guys. For how long have I been putting off reading this? So this book is categorized as a romance. I actually think this won the Goodreads romance category, which is quite interesting. But we are following a family during the Dust Bowl and the Great Depression. One day, our main character is living with her parents, and her parents constantly tell her how undesirable she is. No one is ever going to marry her. So she runs into this guy in town, and she starts to sleep with him because she just wants someone to love her. Well, she gets pregnant by this guy who is Italian, and her racist ass family ain't having none of it. So they just like, you getting kicked out of our house and you gonna go live with him. So she has to go live with him. And even though she doesn't really know this guy much, and this guy actually has plans to like go off, I think to college, he ends up having to marry her and staying in, where they from? Is they from Texas? Something like that. Having to stay with her, and he's kind of upset with that. So we go into the future and we're seeing their life. They're living off the land, they're growing crops, and he's kind of depressed because like he wanted to go off to college. He didn't want to be no daddy living on a farm with his family. And the Dust Bowl comes. The Dust Bowl comes, the Great Depression comes, famine comes, and they have to like rework their life. This book, I'm going to give this book 4 stars. I enjoyed this book. I just think Kristen Hanna writes historical fiction, and my problem with that is that like this book could have more thoughtful things to say. I would like if this book delved more into race relations, how white people uphold white supremacy and don't even realize that all it takes is one thing for them to be exiled out of white supremacy as well. Like white supremacy only likes affluent white people. It only benefits affluent white people, and how quickly you can be othered as well. Like there was just a deeper conversation to be had about at the same time this is happening. We're not even that long from post-slavery and all of this other stuff. And it does kind of talk about this with Latinos coming into America and how they are treated. But I just think this book could have been a lot deeper. But instead of going deep, it takes this romance angle that is so silly. It is so absolutely silly, and it didn't need to happen. But I did enjoy this book. I did enjoy reading this book. So 4 out of 5 stars. I just don't know if I would pick up another Kristen Hanna book. It just doesn't seem like a priority. The next book we have is Nothing Special. So in this book, we are following a woman who lives with her bipolar mother and her mother's boyfriend. And one day she gets a job working for Andy Warhol while she's she's on an escalator. She ends up going to the doctor for something. And the doctor's like, I have a job for you, you can go to. So the job ends up being working for Andy Warhol. And while she's working for Andy Warhol, things happen. There is a genre of white women fiction. And I like to call it knockoff bell jar core. Knockoff bell jar core. Where like, the books are just literally like Sylvia Plath's The Bell Jar, but just not as well written, not as interesting, and definitely not as nuanced. And it's just about white women like going through life. Maybe one or two things happen to them, and then the book ends, you know, like, ooh, white woman depressed, this person doesn't like me. It's just knock off The Bell Jar. That's what it is to me. Like, I just see through what it is, and it's just like you're just doing knock off The Bell Jar. But The Bell Jar is a good book, I believe. And these books that these white women are putting out aren't. This book is nothing special. I think the writing is good. The best thing I can say about this is Nicole Flattery is a really good writer. That's what kind of keeps you in the book. Her writing is electrifying because you're expecting more because the writing is so good. But at the root of it, it's just not interesting. Andy Warhol, this idea of, and it's just here for fluff. And no, this did not work for me. 2 out of 5 stars. The last book that I read, well, not the last book that I read, but the last book I'm going to tell you about is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. So in this book, we are following a girl who is a senior in high school, and she kind of has to do like a senior exit. We had to do like senior exit projects, right? One big project before you graduate. And she's doing hers on the murder of this girl that was in their town. Her friend's brother got accused of the murder. And so she's kind of trying to clear his name because she doesn't think that he did it. And so this leads her down this avenue of like sleuthing to figure out who killed this girl. I'm giving this book 4 out of 5 stars. But this is like, well, I'm like 3.5. 3.5. This book is so ridiculous. So the reason why, you guys know I hate amateur sleuthing. I am on record saying I don't like cozy mysteries because I hate amateur sleuthing. Like a regular person just trying to solve a murder, to me, it's just not that interesting at all. Like it's just not. But this little girl is not your amateur sleuth. She's a better detective than the detective novels that I read. She just knows stuff. Like, she is 18 years old, and she is, like, boots to the ground investigating, breaking into people's houses. Like, so it's ridiculous. It's not plausible. It's crazy. But, like, I have fun. I have fun reading it. So, like, I'm giving it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I'm done. My voice hurt. Those are the 21 books that I read in January. Anyways, next month, I will be reading nothing but Black books because it is Black History Month as you're watching this. So nothing but Black people next time, okay? Anyways, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.